Welcome, everybody, to the Free to Soar podcast. I'm your host, Connie Jones, and we're excited today to have our guest, Heidi Milton, with us. And I'll tell you all about Heidi in just a few minutes. She's a professional organizer and family management coach, and I'll give her a full introduction in just a second. But I am so excited that you're here with us today, Heidi, and can't wait for you to share all the wisdom that you always do with people. So welcome to the show.
Thank you, Connie. I'm happy to be with you today.
Yes, we go way back and have been friends for a long time. And so we have had some special times together. And so I know Heidi really well, and I know what an incredible job she does at what she does. And so I can't wait for you to hear all about that today and what's possible for you to be more effective as the business owner that you are and as the person that you are, because that's what Heidi helps her clients do. So Heidi is the owner of Nurturing Order. That's her business. And she is, like I said, a professional organizer and a family management coach. She provides personalized one-on-one home organizing services in the Metro Atlanta area to help people find more order and more peace through how they live, work, and play. And while managing all the stuff that goes along with it. I love that. Because our capacity is affected by how much stuff we have. And so Heidi, just tell us a little bit about, we can assume, obviously, most of us probably know what a professional organizer does for the most part, but maybe some don't know what a family management coach does. And so I want you to share what you do, what that actually is for people who out there, and then how you do it in your unique way.
Sure. So as a professional organizer, I help people in their homes and just their living spaces and sometimes their workplaces make sense of all of their belongings. Sometimes for some it's second nature, or they were trained from a young age how to manage their belongings. Or sometimes there's a life event that may happen that will put things into a chaotic state or just disarray. And so even if one was fairly orderly and had things put together, it can quickly become overwhelming, just all the things that we use on a daily basis. And so I help people not only put order to their belongings, but also help them identify what is an adequate amount in the form of decluttering. That can be somewhat of a emotional experience sometimes. And so I often like to say that I'm very equipped to hold space as we create space.
I love that.
So if, someone is having a hard time letting go of something that they really aren't using anymore, but it's going to create more space in their home and life for something they really do value and want to have easy access to, then letting that kind of go, that's a bit of a process. So you can't organize clutter. So it's usually a two-step process. If there is an overabundance, helping people make those decisions of what is the priority for their life at that time, and then setting up strategic storage solutions for keeping those things in an orderly way. And then as far as the family management goes, there is many ways to keep up a house or any kind of living space. And I like to say there's not one way to run a house. There's not one way to be organized. You might find that you're pretty well equipped to run your household when it's just you, but when you add additional family members, it can get a little challenging and a little overwhelming. So I will sit down and help people identify what are good rhythms and routines that they can put into place to manage the daily things, even as simple as, keeping up with the dishes, or there's many ways of managing your laundry. There's many ways of managing cleaning. So just helping people identify what's going to work the best for their particular lifestyle, even if that means delegating at times, if it's possible, but just talking through all that.
Yeah, because we place so many different roles in our lives, and we're busy people, and there's so much to keep up with. And so if it doesn't come naturally to us, And or if it does come naturally to us, but there's an overabundance of stuff and we don't know how to prioritize, it's really important that we have help and support with that, because we only have so much time and so much energy and only have so much capacity.
Yes.
And so we don't think about the fact that our stuff takes up space, but our stuff also takes up energy.
Yes, absolutely.
And so, and when we're spending our energy on our stuff and how to manage it or what to do with it, or, how do we handle all of it and manage all of it, then that energy can't go somewhere else.
Right.
And so it's really important that we do prioritize. And so how do you see people struggle with that? Like, what are some of the things that you see on a regular basis as far as what you really have to help people with?
Yes. Well, it's quite often, if someone is in a particularly, like if they would identify they're in an overwhelmed state, like they just walk into a room and they just want to shut the door, or, they said, I've tried multiple times and I just wind up spinning my wheels. I operate kind of just like a guide, helping them just focus on one set of decisions at a time. So then it's less focus on the big picture, but I can kind of break it down into manageable decisions. And so often that's just as simple as, I'm very methodical. I'll just pick an area of the room and just start grouping like items together. And when I get enough of a similar type of item, if they want to help me with that process, they can. If they're completely, like I've had some clients where they'll just sit outside in the hallway. Like I just can't even face it. And I'll just, pass them some categories of things and say, this is what you have of this particular thing. Do you feel like you need this quantity? And so it's just decisions based on items that they have. And if it's a really big quantity that's mixed all together, it can be hard, to think about how to address it. And so just having someone just kind of lead you through it and guide you, and then also just be there with you. Sometimes that's just helpful enough. Some folks might identify, I could do this, but I would rather not. And so, similar to like when you want to get in shape, you could go to a gym, you could employ the use of a personal trainer. But if you find you're not following through on doing it on your own, then if it's a priority, like you said, you put your time and your energy and your resources to what you want to see grow.
Yes. I see business owners all the time. And one of the first things that I tell them is that, or let me say it this way. I see business owners all the time who are overwhelmed and who are overworked and who have way too much to do and want more margin and freedom. And that's actually what I help people with. But it's to create that margin and that freedom in their business and in their life, so that they can live the life that they really want to be living and spend their time and their energy on the things that really matter to them. But one of the first things I help them look at is, where can they get support and help with certain things that they don't absolutely have to do? Because we as business owners want to be really, really, really smart, really wise about how we spend our time and our energy. And one of the first places I recommend that they get help and support is at home or in the personal side of their lives, whether it be lawn care, house cleaning, organizing, cleaning their space, cleaning their workspace, whatever that is, because there's overwhelm, overwork, decision fatigue, decision overwhelm. I mean, there's just so many things that we come up against. And oftentimes what would feel like a little decision that we tell ourselves we should be able to make when we're in overwhelm and don't have much margin, that little easy decision could become a really tough decision. Like, how many of those do I really need? Or what do I really need to get rid of? Or where do I start in my home? Those things. I'm sure you see that a lot.
Yes.
And when you work with business owners, what do you see as, like, what's been your experience with how you can help them, and how, and what do you see as the result of them, you know, whether it's clearing out clutter, whether it's getting priority, whether it's organizing, whether it's, what are some of the things that you have helped them with, and what's been the result of that?
Yes. Well, often, it's just their general living spaces, anything that you can make more efficient and that you don't have to think about unnecessarily.
Yes.
Like I can think of some business owners that really value having a well-ordered closet because, they don't have they'd rather not spend extra time and energy and stress just to get dressed for the day, or there's some business owners that, their time is so valuable and they have a family as well. And they want to feel like they're honoring both their responsibility at work, but also at home. And so, if it's a partnership between a husband and wife, it's hard. Sometimes you have different thresholds of how clutter affects one or the other. And so it's very common that you'll find one spouse is not really bothered by clutter where the other one is. And so it's trying to find, that common ground for what's reasonable for the stage of life they're in. And, so I'm a good mediator sometimes in that regard.
Mediator, therapist, all of the above, for sure.
Yeah. So, and again, just in those basic areas, getting the kitchen drawers in order. So you're not having to rifle through to find, a particular tool that you want to make for dinner when that's already a stressful time. Getting the pantry sorted out so you're not needlessly getting duplicates. And then wondering why you don't have enough room because you have 3 peanut butters. So just the regular household events, clearing out, putting things in an orderly way is going to produce productivity and just that peace of mind that, it's just, I've heard feedback from business owners, say that they have increased their profit just because they could, focus on more important things. They have time. They're not as distracted. They feel like they're just have more clarity because whether we're facing the things a lot or not, we are still have an awareness of things are out of order. And it's kind of like subconsciously this voice telling you, or you just have this knowing that this is not how it should be. And so it
does sit on our shoulders. The things that we have even put on the, on the parking lot list, I call it a parking lot, those things for later. We may not be, we're not aware that we're carrying it all the time, but we're carrying it all the time until it gets done. And so we don't compartmentalize as well as we think we do sometimes because it is still taking up energy. And so let's talk about like other ways that you see business owners struggling with clutter in their lives. Like, what are they? Is it just at home? What other ways do you help them with clutter and organization, cleaning out clutter? And why is that so important?
I do talk with clients often just about, how they structure their time. Because I have business owners that, they're so, they're multi-talented often, and they have many passions, and it's wonderful to see. It's inspiring, what much they have to offer and how passionate they are about it. But sometimes they get so overwhelmed by really good things that they're invested in, and it's hard to, sometimes, we're clearing out the mental clutter, before we deal with physical clutter sometimes. And so it's just helping them sometimes talk out, sometimes you have to hear your own voice say what's most important, or just to have the person, someone else, an outside objective person, say back to you, this is what I hear, that this is important to you. And then just being able to filter it a bit and to know how to structure your time. And if sometimes you just need someone to tell you, there's not enough time to accomplish what you're doing. Or in some cases, encourage them, you're trying to accomplish too much. Try
Right.
to make your goals a little bit easier to achieve. So then you'll feel that sense of success, and the momentum will carry you from that.
Yes.
So many different ways that I would respond to a business owner that way.
No doubt. As a high achiever and a doer and a performer, I mean, I can speak for, and that's who I see. So I can speak that they are very multi-talented. They're great. They're good at everything
Mhm.
or good at a lot of things,
Yes.
but they overextend and
Yes.
don't even and don't oftentimes know that they're overextended.
Yes.
They feel overextended, but they don't know what is too much.
Right.
They don't know, and then don't even begin to know what to get rid of.
Mhm.
What can I say no to?
Right.
Where do I start with that? So yeah, a lot of times it's really important to begin to, get clarity about what's really most important to me. And most of the time people don't know when they come to me. I know that they don't know that, because they're doing all the things.
Right.
So you're exactly right. It's really establishing the priorities and cleaning out, releasing what is not in that higher priority list.
And the
And that's hard.
seasons will dictate, like sometimes you
Yeah.
think this has always been a priority, and you don't realize because you've entered a new season of life that, maybe
That's
I
so
shouldn't be
true.
putting so much focus on that, and giving yourself
Yes.
permission to, not feel like you have to carry all of that.
Yes. And you're exactly right. In different seasons, okay, I don't have to do, or that doesn't have to look the same way in this season.
Right.
It can look very differently, but we don't know to give ourselves permission to do that without someone being there to support us in one way or another, for sure. Let's talk about your business and you being a business owner, and what have been some of the biggest challenges that you have had as a business owner that you have had to overcome, and what support have you needed for helping you through those challenges?
Sure. Well, I mean, for me personally, uh, I have operated my business in a few different states, even, and I've
Yeah.
moved a couple times. And, it was never a question of, do I want to continue running my business wherever I am? But that's it's almost like starting over every time.
Yeah.
If you're just in a certain industry or field, you can be transferred and they'll put you to work and you can just hit the ground running. And so, that's a challenge to just kind of keep up the personal momentum, and to just do what you need to and what will bring the results, even if it has to be a slow burn. And there's always something
Yes.
you can do that's going to increase um, the end goal. And so just identifying, okay, what am I in control of today? If I
Yeah.
don't have someone on the schedule and I'd like to, well, what is going to be the next best thing that's going to feed this business? And so having to restart a few times just by virtue of moving, that's been difficult, but worth the efforts. And sometimes it's, I'm a solopreneur. So at this point in time, I don't have, someone working with me day to day, but I have outsourced, other services. Like I've just had my website redesigned. And so, I'm the only person who can research who do I want to do this. It all falls to
Yes.
me.
Yes.
And
Wearing all the hats. Yeah.
exactly. So, it would be great if I could just, run the business, if I could just be the organizer, but I have to
Yeah.
constantly be thinking of not just showing up for the job, but how can I work the business as well?
Yes.
So just
Work on the business and
right.
in the business at the
Correct.
same time.
Yes.
For sure.
Mhm.
Yeah. And that is a reality for solopreneurs. It is, it's wearing all the hats
Mhm.
and then realizing, okay, at what point, is it stifling my business and, and
Mhm.
exhausting me to
Yes.
continue to, to do
Yes.
this. But it's hard to know.
It is. Well, and speaking of seasons of life, like I still do have, they're not children, as in the age
Yeah.
sense, but we have, youngins in our midst that
Yeah.
are not all of them are fully launched, and that's always been my first priority. And
Yeah.
so sometimes, I get an inkling, oh, maybe I could try something new, maybe I could expand, my offerings in some way. And a life event, or I'm just reminded real quickly, no, my mom hat is still firmly
Yeah.
in place, and that's where I want it to be. I want
Yeah.
to be fully available. And so there's just that friction of, making sure that I allow enough buffer between my work and my family. So I have, just like that, what you said, that energy to, give to them. I'm not just giving it all to like business.
Yes, no doubt. And it's so important to recognize your seasons. Again,
Hmm.
like you said, this is the season for you. And again, your priority is to be a mom. And so, it's okay, how do I work my business? And that's the thing, we can have what we want.
Hmm.
And I tell business owners this all the time. We really can have what we want. We are the only ones limiting ourselves, saying we
Yes.
can't do that or can't have that or can't. Yeah, yes, there are exchanges. When
Yes.
we make decision towards one thing, we are making a decision away from something else, for sure.
Yes.
However, we want to be making our decisions in the direction of the things that are most important to us. And we can have it our way when we do.
Yes.
If we will get honest with ourselves and just say what we want,
Hmm.
and then get clarity around, what's possible there for me.
Hmm.
Rather than just telling ourselves I just can't have it, so it's not even an option.
Hmm.
And so you've figured it out. And again, not perfectly, but just you're
Hmm.
walking it out.
Yes.
It sounds like.
Hmm.
Yeah. And so, I've been actually, a part of you moving your business, and
Yes.
that is tough to move locations, and you've done it beautifully. And it's, just, watching everybody that gets to know you, loves you. So it's just, the minute you put yourself out there, it's, I know it takes time,
Hmm.
but people, do, business picks up because it's you that you're putting out there into the world. It's
Hmm.
your essence. And there are people everywhere who need our help. So how have you seen, business shift? Is it the same as you've shifted locations, or have you noticed that in different areas, it's different, um,
This
different
area,
challenges?
I'm currently in Marietta, and
Yeah.
most recently I was in Peachtree City, and there's a
Yeah.
lot of similarities, to be honest, with the two communities, and so it's very familiar.
Yeah.
I do on occasion, get invitations to go, in areas I've never been to before, which I actually enjoy. I
Yeah.
get to see places I would never have cause to go.
Yeah.
And, see, it's always interesting to see, is what people's different values and priorities are. It's
Sure.
very fascinating to me, to find ways to, that's what's going to suit one person will not suit the next. And so just
Yeah.
being a curious investigator.
Yeah. I
um,
love that.
but
That's
yes,
so good.
but the South is very much, I have found it to be people are just very welcoming,
Yeah.
unapologetic for the most part. And then there are a handful that are, really kind of feeling like bad, they have to ask for help. But I'm always quick to reassure them, like, I'm not looking at what you perceive to be the faults of the situation. I'm looking at you to see where you're unhappy, and make that better.
Yes. Oh, I love that. I was going to ask you, how does someone know they need you?
Mhm.
Is the first question. But then, and so I do want you to answer that. But then I want to ask a follow-up question to what you just said about, what do you want to say to the people who feel shame
Mhm.
or are shooting themselves for not needing you, or
Mhm.
saying, I
Mhm.
shouldn't need her. I shouldn't, this
Yeah.
isn't like, so we'll go over that in just a second. But tell me, how does someone know that they need a professional organizer or a family management coach?
Yes. Well, I think, just as we've already covered, if someone is feeling just overwhelmed in their space, like, you want your home you want your home to feel good. You want to be in your home.
Yeah.
And, I often will refer, you want your home to feel like a sanctuary. You want your home to feel like a place where you can rest and relax. Often when you're outside of your home, you're busy doing and creating and, working. And is your home a place you want to come back to? Or do you feel like you have to leave your home to find peace? And if you feel like you have tried and are just spinning your wheels, or you just feel like you don't have the skill, because it really is. It is a skill. And so some folks think, well, I ought to know this, but that's not the case. I happened to grow up in a fairly orderly environment, but my mother was a teacher.
Yeah.
And so she did an in-home daycare for a while, and then she did a school in our house. And so I grew up seeing things put away. And so that was natural to me. It's not the case. I have some clients that, they just didn't have that experience for whatever reason. Not to say they didn't have a good upbringing, but just that was a little bit lacking in their understanding. And, or if you have, family members and you're not agreeing on how to do things, then bringing in someone who's completely objective, and can just ask questions that will bring about, a good agreement, then that is helpful. But, if you're just not feeling good, you're not feeling peaceful, and you can't seem to find the time or the motivation to start, then often, just getting started is the hardest. And then anytime you're doing something that feels hard, doing it with someone else just makes it all the more easy.
Oh my
I do that
gosh.
with my husband all the time. If there's a task I don't want to do, I will just ask him, hey, can you just sit with me?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I am not super duper technologically savvy. So there are things I need or want to do. And so I'll sometimes ask him, hey, I need to take care of this. And could you be available just to be nearby in case I have a question? And the same thing with my kids. I'm not going to do their homework for them, but, just knowing someone is there in your corner makes it feel much more achievable.
Oh my gosh, it makes all the difference in the world. And that's why I believe everybody needs a coach. And, it's because we're not created to do things alone.
No.
We're just not, we can't see all the sides of it, and it will feel harder.
Yes.
That's for sure. So how do they, once they realize that I really need someone, I would, or I would just love someone and that's okay to, that I don't have to do it all. I can do it, but I don't have to.
Right.
How do they get over, I can do it, but I just can't find the time? Or I have decision fatigue and I just can't make those decisions right now because I've got so much else on my plate.
Yes.
Or I should be able to do this myself. Or I shouldn't spend the money, or, or the shame and the, shaming themselves over the fact that they should know how to do it. What do you say to people? And I know you've addressed it a little bit, but let's answer that fully.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
what do you tell them?
For someone who thinks, man, I should know how to do this. No, we don't come into the world knowing anything. We're taught how to do everything from tying our shoes to buttoning buttons to cooking a meal. So if there is something you want to grow an understanding of, you absolutely can. And so it's just, getting the right person to come alongside you and help you learn that, or find the right resources in order to learn it. You can learn it by reading or, watching videos and things like that too. And then as far as, feeling, I'm trying to think of all the things you mentioned.
I can do it, but I just don't have the time,
Yes.
or, I'll get to it and I just don't.
Yeah. So I would say, once you decide that it is a priority, and sometimes you just have to make those pros and cons lists, right? It can just be as
Yeah.
simple as writing down, like, yes, organizing will take time, but you're inevitably going to create time. But,
Right.
it's like an investment. If you put
Yeah.
your time and energy towards this, it's going to take a little bit of time today, but over the long haul, you're going to get so much time back. And you're not going to have the stress on top of it, because you're
Yeah.
just going to be constantly spinning your wheels. So I would say, usually, if they're really adverse, then just make a timer your friend.
Yeah.
And you might be surprised how much you can accomplish in just 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Set a timer for 15 minutes and start in an area that's non-emotional, like under a sink or in a drawer, and just see how that goes. Like, never start in an area that is super duper emotionally charged.
Yeah.
You might not want to start in your closet if you have a lot of health and fitness goals. That might not make you feel so good about yourself. But
Yeah.
if you're just trying to flex, your organizing muscles, just do a little bit at a time and get that, oh, I can just do this one cupboard. And then whenever I'm feeling like I need some momentum, I'm going to open up that cupboard. Look at all those cups nicely in a row. I did that. And so then you can
Yes.
just carry that on to the next little spot. So it is what I definitely say, with organizing. It is not a one-time project. You have to look at it. It is an ongoing process. So similar to like keeping a garden, you're never going to just have one session of planting. You're never going to have just one session of weeding. You're going to have to keep
Yes.
returning to it and keep tending to it. But the one thing that you can put on your side is, the lower the amount you have, the less you have to manage. And so if you can not feel so attached to a large quantity of things, then that in and of itself is going to make the process of organizing so much more manageable.
For sure. Oh my gosh, those are great tips. And then for that person who knows that they just, it's just not a gift of theirs
Mhm.
and they just cannot, and maybe they've been hiding behind hiding, not asking anybody to their house, or just
Mhm.
living with just the stress and the shame
Yeah.
of, the clutter or the lack of organization.
Mhm.
What do you say to them? Like, what do they need to hear right now
Yeah.
that will give them some freedom to ask for some help?
Yeah. Well, I've heard some. I don't remember which podcast it was, but I listened to several people in the organizing industry or people who are being interviewed, and
Yeah.
I heard something that I hadn't heard before. Um, that I guess I haven't put a lot of thought into since, but something worth thinking about is, it was their opinion that all clutter is related to some emotion.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, if you are not wanting to face some of your clutter, you might want to consider if there is something emotionally that you're not willing to face. There's kind of like the state of your environment has a lot to do with the state of your inner, your inner spirit. And
Mhm.
so if you are so, tangled up in your mental and emotional state, you just can't even conceive of how you're going to face that. And so, I get some clients, by referral from, like counselors like yourself, and
Mhm.
there is a definite correlation. And so,
Mhm.
oftentimes, if as we're going through things, something will come up in them, that they were,
Mhm.
realizing, oh, I haven't thought about that in a long time. And,
Yeah.
so in those cases, I would, refer them, to someone who can, unpack that a little bit further. But they
Yeah.
might not even have recognized that they're, not addressing something emotionally. And that's, just as you say all the time, keeping them stuck.
Yes.
Whether it's with their physical things or their emotional things, you can't move forward. You can't clear that out.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so good. And it absolutely is so related. We don't know why we hang on to things, physically, emotionally, mentally, and we just don't stop to take a look at why. And it just gets comfortable and familiar.
Yes.
And we don't realize the space that it is taking up and the energy that it's taking up, and what we're not dealing with as a result. So that maybe it's time to clear out. You mentioned the word spirit, and so I want to go off on that for a second, and let's talk just for the last few minutes about about being a Christian business owner, and because I know that you are, and that's what we talk about here on this podcast, and so. How do you bring your faith into your business? How do you lead? How does being a Christian impact you being a business owner?
Well, it's impacted way as far back as when I decided to go into this line of work. It was very intentional. Like I read a book. I might have talked about it with you before, but title is Why You Can't Be Anything You Want to Be, but You'll Love Being Who God Designed You to Be.
Yes.
And so I knew from a young age I wanted to be an entrepreneur if I wasn't going to be an actress.
Yeah.
So once I decided I wanted to be an entrepreneur and have my own business, I was trying to figure out, well, what kind of business might that be? And this particular book helped figure out what your unique motivated abilities patterns are. And so I very much identify that what I do with and for my clients is definitely a spiritual gift. And I'm equal parts task oriented and relational oriented. So one never supersedes the other. I kind of have an intentionality that I'm open to respond to whatever that client needs at that time that I'm there. Some things are going to get done in their house. That's for sure. But I'm dealing with human beings with very real lives and very real circumstances that you never know. And so, I always start by asking, how's your day? And like, they can tell when I ask, it's not just flippant, and that is like, I've prepared myself to receive whatever. They don't have to be holly jolly in a good mood. And they don't even always have to know what they're trying to achieve. It's just, what can we do to move forward? And that comes from a place of, knowing that I'm not just serving them in order to gain something for myself, but knowing that I'm, operating from a place of service to my Heavenly Father as well. And that I want to, if someone knows that I'm a Christian, that I, could have an understanding of where I'm coming from in that way, that's not something I'm doing on my own power.
That's it. Yeah. I call, heart-centered, mission-driven Christian business owners, kingdom-minded business owners, because there is a different way that we come from the place of our spiritual giftings. We understand that that it's important to live out our purpose and to be in alignment with who God made us. And because when we're not, we're in struggle.
Yes.
But when we're in alignment with our purpose, there's so much fulfillment. There's so much meaning. There's so much, things are easier. I don't mean that they're always easy. No. That's not, nothing is in a broken world, but then there's also that fulfillment, knowing that we are who we were created to be and making an impact in the world in the way that we were made to. And it's making an impact in the kingdom. It's making an impact on other people's hearts and lives that matter. Not just from a materialistic standpoint or just a how much can I achieve standpoint, or who can I step over, but and even the world, if worldly standards and worldly ways of doing things doesn't mean it's bad. Right. It doesn't mean it's wrong. Right. It just being God led is a whole different way of living and leading. Are there any other, like, as far as it's so beautiful that I love when you share that, the heart of you, the passion of you, and how you're living out your purpose and really making a difference. Is there more as far as how it affects how you run your business? Not necessarily, client facing, but or client interaction, but how do you lead your business God led?
So I make it a goal to get up before, the children that need direction specifically.
Yeah.
Some are more self-directed than others.
Yeah.
But I get up before they're getting up, like 20, 30 minutes, just to have some time of quiet reflection and prayer and kind of just steady my mind. Just to get myself in a good place mentally and emotionally, just myself, so that I am showing up in a way that's honoring to God and honoring to them and honoring to myself. And so that is the first. And, I will often listen to, music or inspiring content on my way driving to a client's house. So I'm keeping myself in that elevated headspace and, grounded in what is, lovely. In other words, whatever is lovely, trying to just keep myself in a positive frame of mind so that I am showing up in a way that's going to be uplifting, no matter what is achieved. Even if I'm just contributing something that I know good, a good presence can really make a big impact in someone.
Absolutely. When we come from a place of having our cup filled first and giving from the overflow rather than and from direction and wisdom, rather than just knowledge, just following, strategies and formulas or what I should do or what I, what's coming at me, what's urgently, demanding me versus what's really important and being discerning and wise about that is a game changer for sure. So, that's so beautiful. I love that. Well, how can, first of all, thank you for sharing again, your heart and all the, the beautiful heart-centered wisdom that you have for us today. How can, if people want to know more about you, how can they learn more about you and how can they contact you?
Yes, the website was a great place to start to learn more about just how my business works. And that's the best way to learn how to get to the other areas about learning or seeing what have done. That would be nurturingorder.com. And there is a contact form someone could fill out, and that would go directly to my email. I'm active on both Instagram and Facebook. I'm pretty responsive, to when someone reaches out to me. I'm pretty good at getting back to them pretty quickly. But those are kind of the top three: the website or the two social media outlets.
And that's Nurturing Order on
both Facebook and Instagram. Right.
Okay, great. Awesome. Well, is there anything that I know we talked a lot today and you've shared a lot already, but a lot of really valuable gems, but is there anything that you want to say in closing? Is there anything that you feel like you haven't been able to say or any encouragement you want to leave people with?
Yeah. Well, I mean, talking about what you already brought up, what do you say to someone who thinks they can't? Well, what I often say to the resident 15, almost 16-year-old, because he tends to be a little bit more, on the negative bent sometimes. We have a phrase in the house that is, whether you think you can or can't, you're right.
That's right. That's exactly right. Our minds are really
how
powerful.
you think about things makes a big difference, and how you think about. So rather than thinking I can't, try to come from a place of curiosity. I wonder how I could figure this out. I wonder, or I'm learning. I don't know what this is, but I have the tools to figure it out.
Yes.
So just
or what's possible. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. That's so good. Well, thank you again for coming on and for all the incredible work that you're doing to help people on a daily basis. And you guys reach out to Heidi if she is the best of the best, for sure. I don't have any hesitation, highly recommending her. I know the work that you do and it's incredible and you're changing lives and that's
Thank you,
amazing.
Connie. Mhm.
And thank you for your heart too, for the service for the people that you serve.
Yes, thank you. And
Yeah.
I appreciate your support as well, because
Oh,
going through different life transitions that I went through,
yeah.
you were a big impact, to help me keep
Oh,
pressing on. So just as I
oh,
work with my clients, they face transitions in life that maybe they didn't expect or want, and
yeah.
helping them figure that
Yeah.
out as far as it relates to things in their house. Um,
Yeah.
I experienced the same working with you, figuring out how life
Oh,
is going to look with my business during different life transitions. So thank you.
yeah. And it's exciting
Mhm.
to watch it happen. I love that. Well, you are so welcome and thank you. Well, you guys, thanks for joining us today. If this, hopefully, my goodness, how could it not have inspired you in some way or impacted you? I hope it did. And I hope that whatever is causing you the hesitation or what's that thing that you just feel like if I could just get breakthrough in this area, or if I could, just get a little bit of movement in this one area, I could, things could bust open for me,
Mhm.
and just trust that. And then ask for the support that you need. Ask
Mhm.
for the help. There are tons of resources out there. There are, if it's not one of us, it's, who it is, and
Mhm.
they will come to your mind and to
Mhm.
your heart,
Yep.
and just act on it because we need each other. And speaking of each other, if this did impact you in some way, and you know of someone that it could also inspire or help, I hope that you'll share it with them. You can, copy and paste the link and send it, send it to them through a text, or you can whatever works for you, invite them to the platform, whatever. But thanks for joining us, and thanks for always showing up and being willing to grow yourself. And we hope that wherever you are in this day, that you have a great rest of it. And we will see you right back here next time on the Free to Soar podcast. Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining me today on the Free to Soar podcast, where we empower and equip you to lead the business and the life of your dreams with freedom, impact, enjoyment, and abundance. I look forward to our next episode together, and I invite you to subscribe to be notified of new episodes as they are released. Please share this or your favorite episode with a friend or a loved one, and I'd love it if you'd leave a review on iTunes and Spotify.